Actually, when I loudly throw in the faces of right-libertarians that the cops standing down would lead to riots and looting, I don't see that as a negative, or a reason to argue in favor of policing or the state. I'm an anarchist, remember. What I'm pointing out is that their concept of statelessness is impossible. That real statelessness would not have the consequence of spontaneous order and people basically obeying the status quo, as though the cops are merely extraneous, unnecessary bureaucracy, but of a spontaneous redistribution of wealth. And I'm in favor of this. What the right libertarians don't understand is that the state exists to protect property rights. See, as an anarcho-communist, an actual anarchist, I don't like calling them libertarians. I'd rather just call them liberals. But people that call themselves liberals almost universally understand the simple truth that the state exists to uphold property. To uphold property, to protect property, to save your property from the masses of poor people that don't have any. Not as a corollary, not as an accident, as its primary and at times singular purpose. That's why we have a state, folks, so that poor people don't steal your stuff. The state is property rights. To argue that you can have property rights without a state, it's incoherent. It would be open class war. People shooting each other over nothing. To start with. That is my point. But again, I'm not opposed to this. In fact, I'm patiently waiting for it. Right libertarians want everything the state provides, but without a state itself. They think that if you take away the state, there'll just be a state. That we will live the same way without a state as we do with it. Or to put it another way, they want a state, but they don't want to be taxed to pay for it. The cops, of course, are never going to stand down. If we want to get rid of the cops, we're going to have to take up arms and fight them. But if they did, I would expect that the looting and rioting would be temporary and fizzle out along with the inequality that exists as a function of the property that can't exist without them. So once we take away the cops, we'll have all of this looting and rioting, and everything will kind of, there'll be explosions and chaos and everything else. But once the dust settles, we'll have a much fairer society. Because we won't have cops keeping poor people poor anymore. But the looting itself, it would be legitimate. It would be a process of distributive justice. Because that's what the revolution is, right? You don't throw away the state for no reason. You throw it away because it upholds property. And property is at the root of all injustice. What the revolution means is abolishing property. Abolishing property. So how can you say that there can be property after the revolution? This is counter-revolutionary at best. But it's just status quoism, truly. People that call themselves libertarians on the right, they don't want a change of anything. They want the system exactly as it exists, but they just don't want to be taxed for it. A true revolutionary wants to tear all of these things down. And if you carefully examine all of the things that we want to tear down, at the core, at the heart of everything, okay, is property.